The quiet hum of computers filled the room as Dr. Alan Wright stared at his screen. For 3 days straight, he had barely moved from his chair at the Kuiper Belt Deep Space Monitoring Station. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he couldn't pull himself away. The signal was still there, faint but persistent. "You should get some rest," said Nancy Peters, sliding a cup of coffee across his desk. Alan shook his head. "It's still coming in. Look at these patterns." Nancy leaned closer. The signal wasn't random noise. It had structure, repeating elements, mathematical sequences that couldn't be natural. "Have you told anyone yet?" she asked. "No. I need to be sure first." Alan took a sip of coffee. "If I'm wrong, I'll look like a fool. If I'm right." He didn't finish the sentence. The signal had first appeared 16 days ago. Most of the team had dismissed it as cosmic background radiation or equipment malfunction. But Alan noticed something different. The signal repeated every 94 minutes with slight variations that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena. It was deliberate. It was alien. 3 days later, Alan called an emergency meeting with the station director, Dr. Susan Miller. "This better be good, Alan. I canceled my daughter's birthday call for this," Susan said as she walked into the conference room. Alan connected his tablet to the main screen. "It's not just good. It's world-changing." He played the audio conversion of the signal. A series of tones filled the room, organized in clear patterns. "I've managed to decode parts of it," Alan explained. "It's a language based on mathematical principles. And it's a distress call." The room fell silent. Susan's annoyed expression transformed into one of shock. "Are you absolutely certain?" she asked. Alan nodded. "The message comes from a civilization that calls themselves the Lenorians. They're being attacked by another species, the Vorax. From what I can tell, the Vorax are systematically destroying Lenorian worlds." "How far away are they?" "Based on signal degradation, approximately 42 light-years." Susan sank into her chair. "So this message was sent 42 years ago. They could all be dead by now." "Maybe," Alan admitted, "but they might still be fighting. And they specifically asked for help from any civilization that could hear them." Word spread quickly. Within a week, the United Earth Defense Council called an emergency session. Alan found himself standing before the 24 representatives of Earth's unified government, explaining what he had learned. "The Lenorians appear to be a peaceful species," he told them. "Their message suggests they have advanced technology but limited weapons. The Vorax are predatory. They don't just conquer, they consume. They strip planets of resources and leave nothing behind." Counselor Jack Rivera leaned forward. "Dr. Wright, are you suggesting we send help to a civilization 42 light-years away? Even with our best FTL drives, that's a journey of several months. And we'd be confronting an enemy we know nothing about." "I'm not suggesting anything," Alan replied. "I'm just presenting the facts. The Lenorians asked for help. What we do with that information is up to you." The debate lasted 3 days. Some argued that humanity should focus on its own problems. Others worried about attracting the attention of the Vorax. But in the end, compassion and duty won out. "We can't ignore this," said Counselor Maya Johnson in the final session. "If we turn our backs on a civilization in need, what does that say about us? We've spent centuries fighting each other. Maybe this is our chance to stand for something bigger." The vote was close. 13 to 11 in favor of intervention. Operation Distant Shield was born. Humanity would answer the call. As Alan left the council chamber, his tablet pinged. A new message from the station. They had detected more signals. The Lenorians were still out there, still fighting, still hoping someone would come. Humanity would not let them hope in vain. Captain Samantha Cole stood on the observation deck of the UES Vanguard, watching as Earth grew smaller in the distance. At 42, she had spent half her life on spaceships, but never had she commanded a mission like this one. "Captain, Admiral Porter wishes to speak with you," said the ship's eye. Samantha nodded and activated the comm screen. Admiral Porter's stern face appeared. "Captain Cole, status report," he said without greeting. "All systems operational, sir. The fleet is maintaining formation. We'll be ready for our first FTL jump in 3 hours." "Good. The eyes of Earth are on you, Captain. This mission will either be remembered as our greatest achievement or our most foolish mistake." Samantha kept her face neutral. "We won't let Earth down, sir." After the call ended, she sighed. 12 warships carrying over 3,000 personnel were now her responsibility, all heading toward an unknown enemy that might already have wiped out the civilization they were going to save. Lieutenant John Martinez entered the deck. As tactical officer, he had spent weeks studying the limited information they had on the Vorax. "The crew is ready for briefing, Captain," he said. In the main hall, Samantha faced her crew. Young faces looked back at her, some excited, others scared. "By now, you all know our mission," she began. "The Lenorians sent a cry for help, and we're answering it. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's humanity's first step as a member of the galactic community." She activated the display, showing the star map with their planned route. "The journey will take 8 months. During that time, we'll train, prepare, and learn everything we can about our allies and enemies. Dr. Lisa Grant, our xenobiologist, will share what we know about the Lenorians." Lisa stepped forward. A small woman with bright eyes, she had studied the messages from the Lenorians more than anyone except Dr. Wright. The Lenorians appear to be an advanced species with technology far beyond ours, Lisa explained, but they evolved without natural predators and never developed weapons. Their message suggests they're philosophers, scientists, and artists, not warriors. "Which is why they need us," Samantha added. "Humanity may be younger, but we know how to fight." The briefing continued with John Martinez outlining their combat strategy and engineer Frank Daniels explaining how the ships would function during the long journey. Later, in her quarters, Samantha reviewed personnel files. She stopped at Frank Daniels's profile. The engineer had proposed a modification to their FTL drives that could cut the journey time in half. "Computer, call Engineer Daniels to my quarters," she ordered. Frank arrived minutes later. He was older than most of the crew, with gray at his temples and hands that showed years of practical work. "Your proposal is risky," Samantha said, pointing to his report on her screen. Frank nodded. "Yes, Captain. The drive modifications could burn out completely. But if they work, we'll reach the Lenorians 4 months sooner. And how many more of them might still be alive if we arrive earlier?" "That's what I keep thinking about, Captain." Samantha studied him. "Start the modifications, but I want safety protocols in place." As Frank left, Samantha turned to look at the small picture on her desk, her daughter back on Earth. She picked it up, wondering if she would ever see her again. The next day, the fleet made its first FTL jump. As the stars stretched into lines of light, Samantha felt the weight of command. Somewhere, 42 light-years away, the Lenorians were fighting for survival. The question was, would humanity arrive in time to make a difference? And if they did, were 12 Earth ships enough to face an enemy that had conquered an advanced civilization? 3 weeks into the journey, the fleet moved through space faster than any human ships had traveled before. Frank's modifications to the FTL drives worked better than expected. The journey time was now estimated at 4.5 months instead of 8. In the mess hall of the UES Vanguard, the crew gathered for their daily meal. The excitement of the first days had faded, replaced by the routine of space travel and training. "I heard the captain is pushing training schedules to 16 hours a day," said Olivia Ross, the communications specialist. She was young, only 25, but her skill with languages had made her essential to the mission. John Martinez nodded. "We need to be ready. The Vorax won't wait for us to warm up. If there are any Lenorians left to save," someone muttered from the end of the table. The room fell silent. It was the question no one wanted to ask aloud. What if they arrive to find nothing but empty planets and ruins? There will be, John said firmly. The signals are still coming. That afternoon, Captain Cole called a meeting with her senior officers. Her face was serious as they gathered in the command room. "We've received new data from Earth," she said. "Dr. Wright has decoded more of the Lenorian messages. The Vorax aren't just attacking. They're eating their way through Lenorian space. They consume resources, strip planets, and move on." Dr. Lisa Grant frowned. "Like locusts. Worse, they adapt to each planet they take. Their ships evolve with each conquest. By the time they reached the Lenorians, they were already advanced. By the time we reached them." She didn't need to finish. Everyone understood the implication. "We need to train harder," John said. "Focus on guerrilla tactics. We can't match them ship for ship." Samantha nodded. "That's why I've asked you here. Lieutenant Martinez will lead a new combat program. Dr. Grant will continue analyzing Lenorian biology from the data we have. If we're going to fight alongside them, we need to understand their capabilities." As the others left, Frank Daniels stayed behind. "Captain, I need to show you something," he said, activating the display. "The drive modifications are working, but I'm seeing unusual energy readings when we pass certain star systems." He showed her the data. "It's like something is watching us." "The Vorax?" she asked. "I don't know, but it's not natural. Double the sensor range. I want to know if anything approaches within a light year of our position." That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She walked the quiet corridors of the ship, nodding to the night crew. She found herself in the observation deck, staring at the streaks of light that were stars in FTL travel. Security Chief William Howard joined her there. He was a quiet man, former military, with a scar across his right cheek from Earth's last war. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "Too much on my mind," she admitted. "The crew is scared," William said bluntly. "They joined the fleet to explore space, not fight an interstellar war." "Are you scared, Chief Howard?" He considered the question seriously. "Yes, but I'm more afraid of what it would mean if we didn't try." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Samantha rushed to the bridge, William right behind her. "Emergency exit from FTL," the pilot announced. "All ships accounted for." "What happened?" Samantha demanded. Frank looked up from his station, face pale. "The drives detected a massive gravity distortion. If we'd stayed in FTL, we might have been torn apart." On the main screen, Samantha saw not empty space, but a graveyard of ships, hundreds of them, broken and drifting. "Scan for life signs," she ordered. "None detected," Olivia reported. "These ships have been here for years." John studied the design of the closest wreckage. "These aren't Lenorian or Vorax. This is a third species." Samantha felt a chill. They had found evidence of the Vorax's path, and whatever civilization had built these ships was now gone. The real question was, how many more had the Vorax destroyed on their way to Lenorian space? 4 months after leaving Earth, the fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of Lenorian space. The bridge crew of the Vanguard fell silent as the main screen showed what waited for them. A battle was already underway. 3 silver ships, elegant like water droplets, fled from 5 larger vessels that resembled metal insects. The larger ships fired weapons that seemed to eat through space itself. Lenorian ships being pursued by Vorax hunters, John Martinez said, studying his tactical display. "The Lenorians have no weapons. They're just running." Captain Cole didn't hesitate. "Battle stations. All ships form defensive pattern. Target the Vorax vessels, but avoid hitting the Lenorians." The fleet moved with practiced precision. Months of drills had prepared them for this moment. The UEA's Vanguard led the formation, with the other 11 ships spreading out to surround the fleeing Lenorians. "Vorax ships are changing course," John reported. "They're moving to engage us." "Let them come," Samantha said calmly. "Fire when they're in range." The first volley surprised the Vorax. Earth missiles struck two of their ships, causing visible damage. They didn't expect that, William Howard said with grim satisfaction. Their shields were configured for Lenorian technology, not ours. But the advantage didn't last long. The Vorax ships quickly adapted, their hulls shifting like living metal. "They're scanning us," Olivia Ross called out. "I'm picking up intense data transmissions between their vessels." The next exchange was more even. Earth weapons still damaged the Vorax, but not as severely. And the Vorax weapons now focused on the human ships. Shield failure on decks 6 through 9. Frank reported as the Vanguard shook from a direct hit. "Their weapons are nasty. Some kind of molecular disruptor." Samantha gripped her chair. "Status of the Lenorian vessels." "They've moved behind our defensive line," John answered. "They're safe for now." The battle continued for 20 minutes before the Vorax broke off the attack, retreating to a safe distance. "They're regrouping," John said, "probably reporting back about us." "Olivia, can you establish contact with the Lenorian ships?" Samantha asked. Olivia worked her console. "I'm trying, Captain. Their communications technology is different from what we expected." After several attempts, the main screen flickered. A face appeared, alien yet somehow familiar. The Lenorian had blue-tinted skin, large eyes with no visible pupils, and no hair. When it spoke, Olivia's translation program converted the sounds. "You are humans? From Earth?" the Lenorian asked, voice melodic even through translation. "We received your message that you were coming, but we didn't truly believe anyone would respond to a call so old." Samantha stepped forward. "I'm Captain Samantha Cole of the United Earth Fleet. We came to help." The Lenorian's face showed an expression that might have been relief. "I am Coordinator Elam. You have already saved our lives today. But I must warn you, the Vorax you encountered are merely scouts. Their main fleet is much more powerful. How many Lenorians have survived?" Dr. Lisa Grant asked, stepping into view. "Fewer than 1,000,000, spread across 3 systems," Elam answered. "We once numbered billions across 20 worlds." The bridge crew exchanged glances. The situation was worse than they had expected. "We need to get your people to safety," Samantha said. "Do you have a secure location where we can meet?" "Our last sanctuary is in the Talaris system. I will send coordinates." As the communication ended, Frank approached Samantha. "Captain, did you see their ships? Their technology is incredible, at least a century beyond ours. Yet they never developed weapons. A civilization that advanced choosing peace over war," Samantha mused. "Maybe they have more to teach us than we have to offer them." William Howard checked his security reports. "The Vorax will be back, and in greater numbers. We should move quickly." "Agreed," Samantha said. "Set course for the Talaris system. It's time to meet our new allies properly." The Talaris system was hidden inside a dense nebula. The gases and dust made it hard for scanners to work, which had helped the Lenorians stay hidden from the Vorax for nearly 2 years. As the Earth fleet approached the 4th planet, they saw a world of blue oceans and white cities. In a large meeting room on the planet's surface, Captain Cole and her senior officers sat across from Coordinator Elam and 5 other Lenorians. The aliens wore simple white clothing that seemed to glow slightly. "Your arrival has given our people hope," Elam said. "But we must be honest with you. The Vorax armada is vast, over 300 warships." Samantha felt her heart sink. 12 Earth ships against 300 was impossible odds. "We can't fight them directly," she admitted. "But that doesn't mean we can't fight." John Martinez opened his tablet. "We've been studying your reports on Vorax behavior. They follow patterns, like insects. They don't expect the unexpected. Humans are good at being unexpected," William Howard added with a small smile. Lisa Grant leaned forward. "Your technology is far more advanced than ours in many ways. Your shields, your engines, they're remarkable. But you never developed weapons." Elam made a gesture that seemed like agreement. Our philosophy forbids causing harm to other beings. For thousands of years, this served us well, until the Vorax came. With your permission, Samantha said, we'd like to adapt some of your technology to help defend you. We're not asking you to build weapons, but to help us make our weapons more effective. The Lenorians spoke among themselves in their musical language. What do you propose? Elam finally asked. Hit and run attacks, John explained. Small, fast strikes against their supply ships and outposts. We don't try to win battles. We make it too costly for them to continue their attacks. Guerrilla warfare, William added. It's how smaller forces have defeated larger ones throughout human history. Frank Daniels showed the Lenorians diagrams of modified ships. If we can combine your shield technology with our weapons, we can strike and escape before they can respond. For 3 days, humans and Lenorians worked together. The Earth engineers were amazed by Lenorian technology, while the Lenorians were surprised by human creativity. You think differently than we do, the Lenorian scientist named Mailer told Frank. We see patterns and harmony. You see possibilities and chaos. On the 4th day, Olivia Ross made a discovery. She had been studying Vorax communications picked up during their battle. They talked to each other constantly, she told Captain Cole. Their ships share information about threats and how to counter them. It's how they adapted so quickly to our weapons. Can we disrupt their communications? Samantha asked. Better, Olivia smiled. We can listen in, and maybe even feed them false information. The plan took shape quickly. The fleet would be divided into 4 task forces. Each would target Vorax supply lines and smaller outposts, never engaging the main fleet directly. Some Lenorians volunteered to join the human crews as advisors. Others began converting passenger ships into medical vessels to rescue survivors from worlds under attack. We cannot fight as you do, Elam told Samantha, but we can heal, build, and plan. Together, perhaps we have a chance. As preparations continued, John Martinez began training Lenorian volunteers who wished to learn self-defense. He was surprised to discover they had natural abilities humans lacked. They can sense energy fields, he reported to Samantha. They always know when something's about to happen. With training, they could be incredible scouts. William Howard watched the training with interest. They're fast learners, and they have perfect memory. Everything you tell them, they remember. Samantha looked out at the fleet, now being modified with Lenorian technology. She knew the odds were still against them, but for the first time since arriving, she felt a spark of real hope. The Vorax expect us to run or die, she said. Let's show them humans do neither when their friends are in danger. For 6 weeks, the Human-Lenorian Alliance fought using their new strategy. Captain Cole's task force struck Vorax supply ships and smaller outposts, then disappeared back into the nebula before the main Vorax fleet could respond. The other task forces did the same in different sectors. The Vorax grew frustrated. They were used to enemies that either fought directly or ran away. The humans did neither. They attacked, vanished, then attacked somewhere else. But the Vorax were learning. Each time the humans struck, the Vorax adapted a little more. On the bridge of the UES Vanguard, Samantha studied the battle reports. 3 human ships had been damaged in the last week. One, the UES Horizon, had barely made it back to Talaris. They're setting traps for us now, John Martinez said. The supply ships we attacked yesterday had hidden weapons we didn't detect until they started firing. And they're pushing harder against Lenorian worlds, William Howard added. They destroyed a colony on the edge of the Callus system yesterday. 5,000 Lenorians killed. Samantha felt the weight of those deaths. They're punishing the Lenorians for our actions. Olivia Ross had been monitoring Vorax communications. Captain, I'm picking up something new. The Vorax have sent a message directly to Earth. What? Samantha turned in shock. How is that possible? They must have traced our origin from analyzing our ships, Frank suggested. They've sent a tight beam transmission that will reach Earth in about 40 years. "What does it say?" Samantha asked, dreading the answer. Olivia's face was pale. "It's simple. Retreat or face extinction. They've included images of what they did to the Lenorian worlds." The bridge fell silent. Even if they could send a warning back to Earth, it would take years to arrive. Earth would have no idea what was coming. "We need to stop them here," Samantha said firmly. "We can't let them reach Earth." Later that day, Frank Daniels approached Samantha with an excited look on his face. He had been working with Milar, the Lenorian scientist. "Captain, we may have found something," he said. "A weakness in Vorax shields." He showed her the data they had collected from recent battles. Their shields operate on a frequency that shifts constantly. That's why our weapons become less effective over time. They adapt. But there's a pattern to the shifts. "Can we exploit it?" Samantha asked. "Mailer thinks so. If we can hit them with a precisely timed energy pulse, we might be able to collapse their shields completely." For the first time in weeks, Samantha felt a glimmer of real hope. "How soon can you have something ready to test?" "A few days," Frank said. "But there's a problem. We need to get very close to a Vorax ship to use it, much closer than we normally approach." That evening, Samantha visited the medical center where Lisa Grant was helping Lenorian doctors treat wounded from the destroyed colony. The scene was heartbreaking. Many Lenorians had been badly injured by Vorax weapons that seemed designed to cause maximum pain. "They're doing this to break their spirit," Lisa said quietly. "The Vorax want the Lenorians to give up." A young Lenorian child looked up at Samantha with large, pupil-less eyes. Despite the alien features, Samantha could read the fear and hope in that gaze. "We won't let that happen," she promised. The next morning, an emergency alert sounded throughout the base. A massive Vorax fleet had been detected heading directly for Teleris. They had found the hidden sanctuary. "How many ships?" Samantha asked as she rushed into the command center. "At least 70, Olivia reported. "They'll be here in 6 hours." Coordinator Elam looked at the tactical display. "We must evacuate our people. If Teleris falls, we lose our last major sanctuary." Samantha stared at the approaching fleet, 70 against their 12 damaged ships. The odds were impossible, unless they could make Frank's shield-breaking device work in time. "Begin evacuation," she ordered. "But I'm not giving up on Teleris yet." The Lenorian evacuation ships filled the skies above Teleris. Women, children, and elders boarded first, while those who could help with the defense stayed behind. The scene was orderly but filled with quiet fear. In the main laboratory, Frank Daniels and Mailer worked frantically to finish their shield-breaking device. Parts from 3 different ships lay scattered across tables. "It's not perfect," Frank muttered as he connected 2 components. "But it might work." Mailer's blue fingers moved with incredible speed, adjusting tiny parts the human hands were too large to handle. "We have calibrated it to the most common Vorax shield frequencies. The timing must be exact." Captain Cole entered with John Martinez and William Howard. "How's it coming?" "It's ready for testing," Frank said, holding up a device the size of a small suitcase. "But we've only built one." "One is all we need if it works," Samantha said. She looked at her officers. "I've called for volunteers to form a strike team. The plan is simple but dangerous. While our main fleet protects the evacuation ships, a small team will take our fastest shuttle directly to the Vorax command ship." "Their command ship?" John asked. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Samantha agreed. "But if we can knock out their shields and hit them with everything we have, we might confuse them long enough for the evacuation to finish." "I'll lead the strike team," William said without hesitation. Samantha shook her head. "No, I will." "Captain, with all due respect," William began. "This isn't open for discussion. Chief Howard, I need you here to coordinate the fleet's defense. John will come with me. We need his tactical skills." 2 hours later, as the Vorax fleet approached the edge of the system, Samantha briefed her strike team. Besides herself and John, there were 4 volunteers. Frank Daniels with his device, a pilot named Greg Parker, and 2 Lenorians who had trained with John. Once we're inside their defense perimeter, they'll target us with everything they have, Samantha explained. Greg will fly evasive patterns while Frank activates the device. If it works, John will fire our missiles directly at their command center. And if it doesn't work? Greg asked. Then we won't have to worry about the trip back, John said grimly. As they prepared to board the shuttle, Dr. Alan Wright contacted them from Earth. The transmission was delayed by several minutes due to the distance. Captain Cole, we've decoded more of the original Lenorian messages, his recorded voice said. There's something you should know. The Vorax fear humans more than they fear the Lenorians. Why would they fear us? Samantha asked, though she knew Alan couldn't hear her yet. Analysis of their communication shows they're disturbed by human unpredictability. They call us the Chaos Species. They understand the Lenorians, peaceful, predictable. But humans confuse them. They can't calculate what we'll do next. Samantha looked at John. We can use that. The shuttle launched quietly, using Lenorian stealth technology to avoid detection. As the main Vorax fleet engaged with the Earth ships, the small craft slipped through the battle, heading directly for the massive Vorax command ship. They've spotted us. Greg called out as warning signals flashed. Evasive maneuvers. The shuttle danced between energy beams as the Vorax tried to shoot them down. One blast grazed their wing, sending them spinning. Steady, Samantha ordered as Greg regained control. They were close now, the huge command ship filling their view screen. It resembled a giant metal spider, with legs that were actually weapon arrays. Ready with the device, Frank said, his fingers on the controls. Ready with missiles, John confirmed. Samantha took a deep breath. Take us in. Let's show the Vorax what happens when humans get angry. The shuttle accelerated toward the command ship, dodging fire from all directions. Behind them, the Earth fleet fought bravely against overwhelming odds, buying time for both the evacuation and the strike team's desperate mission. Everything depended on the next few minutes. The shuttle shook violently as it approached the Vorax command ship. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as systems began to fail under the enemy fire. We're not going to make it much closer, Greg shouted over the noise. Samantha gripped her seat. We need to get within 50 meters for the device to work. One of the Lenorians, Tuller, touched her arm. Captain, my people can help. We can sense the energy patterns of their weapons. We might predict where they will fire next. Without waiting for permission, Tuller and the other Lenorian moved to stand behind Greg. They placed their hands near his, not touching the controls but guiding his movements with gentle gestures. Left, now up, dive. Greg followed their directions, his eyes widening as energy beams missed them by inches. The shuttle moved in a dance that seemed impossible, dodging between weapons fire that should have destroyed them. 20 seconds to target range, John announced. Frank readied the device, his hand steady despite the shuttle's violent movements. One shot at this. The power cells will burn out after a single use. 10 seconds. John counted down. A massive blast rocked the shuttle, spinning them sideways. Smoke filled the cabin as a console exploded. We're hit. Greg struggled with the controls. Stabilizers failing. 5 seconds. John continued, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. Samantha saw the Vorax command ship through the viewport, so close she could make out individual weapon ports on its surface. Now, Frank. Frank activated the device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a wave of energy pulsed outward from the shuttle, invisible except for how it made the space around the Vorax ship ripple like water. Direct hit, John confirmed. Their shields are fluctuating. Fire everything we have, Samantha ordered. John launched their missiles, aiming for what they believed was the command center of the ship. The weapons flew straight through where the shields had been and struck the hull directly. Explosions bloomed across the surface of the Vorax vessel. Secondary explosions followed as systems overloaded inside. It worked. Frank yelled in triumph. But their celebration was cut short. The shuttle's engines failed completely, sending them drifting directly toward the damaged Vorax ship. "I can't pull us away," Greg said, frantically working the dead controls. Samantha opened the communication channel to the fleet. "This is Captain Cole. The command ship is vulnerable. Target these coordinates and fire everything you have." William Howard's voice came back, filled with static. "Captain, you're too close to the target zone." "I know," she said calmly. "Complete the mission, Chief. That's an order." She looked at her brave crew. None showed fear, not even as they drifted closer to the enemy ship and certain death. Frank stood up suddenly. "The emergency thruster packs. If we vent the oxygen from the rear compartment, we might get enough push to clear the blast zone." "We'd have less than 5 minutes of air left," John warned. "Better than no minutes," Frank replied as he moved to the rear of the shuttle. What happened next was a blur of action. Frank vented the oxygen, giving them a small push away from the Vorax ship. The Earth fleet fired on the command vessel, their weapons tearing through the now unshielded hull. The Vorax command ship exploded in a blinding flash. The shockwave caught the shuttle, sending it tumbling into darkness. When Samantha opened her eyes, she was in a medical bay on the UES Vanguard. William Howard stood by her bed. "The strike team?" she asked immediately. "All alive," he assured her, though Frank lost his right arm, saving the shuttle. "The Vorax?" "In retreat. With their command ship gone, their fleet fell into chaos. They've pulled back to regroup." "And the Lenorians?" "The evacuation succeeded. Coordinator Elam wants to speak with you when you're ready." 6 days later, Samantha stood in the communication center as a message from Earth appeared on the screen. It had been sent weeks ago, just after they had informed Earth of the Vorax threat. Admiral Porter's face was solemn. "Captain Cole, your warning about the Vorax has been taken with the utmost seriousness. Earth is preparing. We're sending more ships, and the Lenorians are welcome in our system if they wish to come." Samantha turned to Elam, who stood beside her. "It seems our peoples have a future together." "We brought you war," Elam said sadly. "You have given us hope." "That's what humans do," Samantha replied. "When someone calls for help, we answer."